Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another live stream for China admissions. Again, we are live on both YouTube and Instagram at the same time. So, if you're interested in rewatching these, if you would like to rewatch them, or you can't tune in just yet, you'd like to watch it later, you can go onto our YouTube channel, China Admissions, and go to the live stream section and find our live streams there, or you can go onto our Instagram where we will also have it recorded and saved. So today's live stream is a bit different from the previous ones. The previous ones were very specific. We went over specific questions that students had and only talked about that question. Last week, we specifically went over the deadlines and how fast the deadlines are approaching. Today's is going to be a little different as we are going to be doing a general Q&A. So any questions that you guys may have regarding applying for the 2023 application or 2023 intake, you can leave these questions on the YouTube chat section or on the Instagram chat section. So just leave any questions you have over there. A quick disclaimer, because we usually get quite a lot of questions regarding scholarships. So when you're applying for a scholarship, just remember that we are not the CSC which is the Chinese scholarship. We are not that council. So we often get questions asking us to help with those applications. We do not help with any scholarship applications. So, and also just keep in mind that many of the scholarship deadlines have already passed. They usually are very early in the year. So just keep that in mind if you're applying for the 2024 intake, to do your research regarding scholarships that are available at the university or the government scholarships, and to know how to apply and when to apply. Okay, so any other questions regarding the intakes, studying in China, life in China? Just make sure to leave them down below. I have here on, I need to make sure I can see both. Okay, so just a quick recap over the last one that we did. We have a lot of deadlines that have already passed for the 2023 intake, and we have a lot of people that are very surprised about the fact that many of the universities that they wanted to apply to are no longer available. So the biggest deadline that we have is May 30th and 31st, which have just passed last week. So that means that for many students, there are not that many, there's not that wide of a selection available. The next big deadline that we have is coming up, and that is June 15th. And then the other big one is June 30th. So that is all within the next month, which means that if you are planning on applying, please make sure to apply as soon as possible. Make sure to have all your documents ready and to know how long it takes to get your documents. Because for some people in some countries, to apply for these documents takes a couple of weeks. So please make sure about that when you're applying. Also keep in mind, the final deadline that we have is July. We have maybe a couple that are in August, but it's very, very rare. So the majority of the final ones will be end of July, which means that after that, there's not really going to be a lot of openings left available for the 2023 intake. So then you will have to wait and apply for the 2024 intake. So yes, just keep that in mind, and also keep in mind that if you're applying, we don't accept applications that come in within the last 10 days before the application deadline. This is because we have a very large volume of applications coming through, and we need to make sure that we can get all the documents in on time, and getting them in as soon as possible and not at the very last minute is always what we recommend. So, any further questions regarding studying in China, life in China, the application process, please be sure to leave them down below. So we have a question here, and this also goes over like life in China and what to expect about the living costs in China. So, in general, what I do recommend to do is to go onto your web browser, whichever you use. You can go onto Google, and then to look up the city that you plan to study in, and the basket price. A website, there are a couple of websites that can pop up, and they tell you in general how much it costs to do groceries over there, how much do certain products cost, how much does rent cost in on average. And it gives you a very good idea of what the cost of living is. Also, keep in mind that if you're a student, you have a lot of benefits when it comes to the cost of living. You might have on campus accommodation, which is much cheaper than renting. And then you also might have you will have access to canteens, definitely, which are also very cheap and very nutritious foods. And then you have a lot of student discounts. You get to use the on campus gym. You get to have, which is much cheaper than joining a gym outside of campus. When you go to do lots of uh, extracurriculars like going to cinemas, etc. If you have a student card, you get a large discount, which is great. So just keep that in mind, that will definitely lower the cost, but it's always good to overestimate how much it's going to cost you so that you are well prepared. Okay, so we have a question about their graduation certificate. So they've graduated, but they haven't received the graduation certificate yet. So you will need to apply for a pre graduation letter. So you go to your school or your university that you have graduated from, and you ask them for a pre graduation letter. And it's a letter that's stamped by the university that basically says that you have graduated or you are to graduate at a certain date and when you will receive your certificate. So you will use that to apply to the university then, and the university will expect you to then send the graduation certificate as soon as you have it in order to get your final acceptance letter. So they might give you a conditional acceptance letter with the condition that you have to send them that certificate later. Also, when it comes to the cost of living, we have some people asking about being able to work part time. So, in some countries, you are able to do this. However, in China, you cannot. You cannot work part time while you are on a student visa. So, keep that in mind. Even if you are able to do internships, a lot of these internships are very low paying or unpaid. They're for a very short amount of time. And it has to be, you have to get permission from a university, and it has to be put onto your visa as a special clause that you are able to do this very specific internship. So it's more about getting the experience rather than actually earning money. So just keep that in mind that if you are planning on that was your plan was to make money while you were over there in order to pay for certain things, it's not going to be possible. So just keep that in mind, and maybe you would like to then apply for scholarships. And we have another question about application documents. I was asking about the bank statement required by the university. Do they expect a certain amount of money? So it depends on the university. Not many universities ask for a bank statement. In general, what they require in the bank statement is that you are able to cover the first year's tuition. So that is quite important that you have that amount within the bank balance. So we have another question here from Mayaya. It says, are there options for masters related to Chinese language? And their major was Chinese language. My major was also Chinese language, so that's right. That's quite cool. There are definitely a lot of options available. So you have the option, and we have a couple of them on our website about which is the teaching Chinese to second language as a second language. So you will then be accredited as a Chinese teacher. That's a very common route that people tend to do. So that's definitely one that you can do. And then there are a couple of majors that are in Chinese. So you can. We might not have all of those programs on our website because the majority of people that do apply for an English taught program. So if you feel like there maybe isn't the option there, you can go onto the university websites and check to see what options they have in Chinese. If you've got an HSK 5 or 6, you're able to apply for many different master's programs that are taught in Chinese, as long as the major is similar to the one you studied as a bachelor's. Someone asked again, they'll go to China for their postdoc. Can they work with the related visa as well as research? So if you are on a student visa, you cannot work at all. cannot. Okay, so, a couple other questions that we often get are about the internet and using the internet over there. So, what most students do is that they will switch to having a local SIM card, which is what I would recommend you do, which means you're going to have a Chinese number as well, and it's going to make things a lot easier for you and a lot cheaper for you. So there are three main mobile phone plan providers: China Mobile, China Telecom, and China Unicom. I used China Mobile, and I have friends that have used the other two services, and we've all found them to be pretty similar. So I would just go over to your local or your closest when you're in China, your closest one of those providers, and ask them for a phone service plan. It's quite cheap and quite good to use as well. Again, we have some questions about the CSC results. We do not assist with the CSC scholarships or their results. So please make sure to check with the CSC Council regarding these. Okay, now Asma has asked about, can you please talk about personal statements? Most of the videos are about personal statements for US and UK. Is it different? So the personal statement is not very difficult to do. The main thing that you have to put into your personal statement is why you want to study at this university, why you want to study this specific program, and why you are a good fit for this program, why the university should accept you. Those are the main three things that should be in your personal statement. And your personal statement needs to be one page if you are applying for a bachelor's program, and then about 1.5 to 2 pages if you're applying for a master's or a PhD. Then we have a question asking the admissions application, is it still open for 2023? So there are some universities that are open. However, the majority of them, their deadline is the end of June. So that means that a lot of them have already closed. That was end of May. And end of June is when the others are going to close. So if you plan on applying, please make sure you have all the relevant documents and then make sure to apply well in advance of the 10 days before the application deadline, because within those 10 days, we won't be accepting applications for that deadline specifically, just because we need to make sure we can get everyone's applications in on time. And then also, some people assume that if they can't get accepted or can't apply for the 2023 fall intake, that they could just apply for the spring intake or the March intake of 2024. Please keep in mind that sorry, there was a question here. Please keep in mind that the majority of universities, their intakes are in September, in the fall intake, which means not a lot of them have the option of a spring intake. There are some options available. So if you do find an option that works for you, that's great, and you can definitely apply for it. But please just keep in mind that the majority of them are in fall, so you're not going to have as many options as for the fall intake. And there's not much that we can do to change it. So then there's another question. Is there any chance to make another visa to work there or only just student visa? So if you're applying for a bachelor's, a degree program, a bachelor's program, master's program, etc., you're going to get a student visa. You can't study those without having a student visa. So you must have a student visa to do that, and you cannot work while you do that. So if you're wanting to go and work, you need to apply for a job that gives you helps you apply for a work visa, and then go there with a work visa to work. That's the only way that you can do work there. And then regarding the personal statement, we have a follow up. Can it include personal experiences like childhood experience, or can it be purely academic? As long as it showcases, let's say for example, as long as it showcases your strengths and your story, I think that's great. For example, if you really want to become a doctor and you're applying for an MBBS program, which is the medical bachelor's program, and your story is that you've always wanted to study medicine because as a child you had to go to a hospital and you had a wonderful experience because there was a great doctor there and they inspired you to become a doctor. That's a great story. You can definitely put that in your personal statement. I wouldn't put something in there about your childhood that doesn't really have anything to do with your personal statement. So try to keep it a mixture of both. It should be very professional. Okay. Any further questions? I can go over a couple more things for you guys. So, if you have any further questions that you would like to go over in terms of studying in China, living in China, that kind of thing, please make sure to comment them down below. Otherwise, I'm going to just continue on to the next topic that we have here. Okay, so we have another question. Okay, so regarding the application process and how long it takes. So we have a couple of different services at China Admissions. So we have the basic service, which is the free service, and then we have the VIP services. So our different service packages like the guaranteed service, priority student service, elite service package, etc. Our tier one service package. So if you're applying on the basic package, it means that you're applying for the application fee for the university, and that's it. So that's all you're paying. That is fine, and we have a lot of students that do that. But just keep in mind that it's going to take a couple days to, especially during peak time. Like right now, where we have a very large volume of applications, it's going to take a little bit longer to be able to add your application, review your application, and check all of your documents and let you know if there are any documents that are incorrect that you need to fix. And just keep in mind that it's not going to be a very, very like extremely like one day and then everything's finished. So it's unfortunately not going to be able to work like that, especially in peak season. So if you're on a basic service, just please be patient. We will try to get everything done as soon as possible for all of our students. Of course, we want to deliver the best service possible for anyone. Um, and then for our service packages, those students, they are priority students, so we can get their applications done a bit faster as well. So just keep that in mind that once you have paid the application fee, to send us that proof of payment, and we will try to get your application added and processed and reviewed as soon as possible. And also just keep in mind that this might not be over the weekend, so to not count those as those working days. So just to keep that in mind, since we have a lot of people that are applying very last minute and get very agitated about getting their documents in as soon as possible, they will get in as soon as possible. Okay, so we have a question. Can I study law in China? My native language is English. So, yes, there are law degrees in China that are taught in English. Just keep in mind if you want to study a bachelor's or a master's, and the for a bachelor's in general, there are not a lot of law bachelors available. It's a bit more of a postgraduate program, but we do have some law programs that are available that you can do, but they are general law. It's not a very specific type of law. Again, that's a bit more of a postgraduate study. So, yes, but we do have those options available. So, we have a question from Abdullah here on YouTube. Can you get jobs in other countries with Chinese degrees? Yes, of course you can. So, Chinese universities are accredited internationally, and you will be able to study abroad with your degree. So, if you're going to study, let's say, a bachelor's in let's say international trade and economics, and you want to continue and you want to do a master's in a different country, that's not going to be an issue. You want to then go and work in a different country, again, not a big issue. It is accredited internationally, so it should be the same as whether you get it in your home country or in a separate country as well, or a different country. It should be very similar. We can't guarantee that you're going to definitely get a job, but that's the same as with any kind of degree. You're still going to have to apply to lots of jobs, which that's a big part of the job application process, and work very hard in order to get accepted at a firm or a job. However, I will say that a lot of companies, especially foreign companies, if you're applying to a foreign country with a Chinese degree, are very interested in that process and are maybe they would like to do business in China. And if you've done a business degree in China, they might be much more likely to hire you. Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, then that's going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much for. Okay, sorry, one more question. Can I work online outside China while studying in China? I don't think so. Again, we don't help with visa applications. We don't help with visas. We don't give visa assistance. We can give you some kind of guideline because we have all studied in China and we have applied to Chinese visas. So it's a very big part of living there. So a lot of people know quite a bit about visas. However, I don't know about studying online while you're working online while you're in China. I think that would be considered just as illegal as working in person in China. But that is something that maybe you'd want to talk to the Chinese embassy about, or a visa application service, or a lawyer about. That is not something that I generally know about in my field. So, thank you guys so much for joining the live stream today. And I will see you guys next week for the next one. If you have any further questions, please take a look at our other live streams that we have, and we have saved them on our YouTube channel and on our Instagram regarding Chinese language programs, regarding the deadlines, regarding which application documents you need, everything. So, please make sure to take a look at those videos as well. Bye, guys.